and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast. This is the Blue Stable. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We are back for the preview matchup for the Tennessee Titans. We'll be taking on the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be an interesting one. The Colts are back home for this one. It's going to be a good game. I'm your host, Marcus, but I'm not here alone. I got my guy Landon with me. Landon, how we doing?
Doing great, man. We're right at the tail end of the season. Things are getting a little interesting, but more importantly than that, next week is Christmas, right? And you always got to feel the Christmas spirit. You got to be happy. You got to be upbeat. Everything's good. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get into this game and just see where we're at.
We're definitely going to see that Christmas is around the corner, and you guys are hearing this before or during happy holidays. Appreciate you guys throughout the year. Hope you guys have a great holiday. Stay safe as well. But let's go ahead and hop into this matchup. The Tennessee Titans are going into this game without a Will Levis. They got Mason Rudolph starting this game. Will Levis was previously benched after the miraculous season he had. He was just a mean king all year. They said, you know what? We're going to give it a rest. We're going to have Mason Rudolph. We're going to see what this looks like. We're going to figure it out. And our very own Landon had predicted this a while ago, even in the first matchup. He said, if I had to choose a quarterback to be more feared, it'd be Mason Rudolph. Well, we're going to grant you this wish, and this is going to be the matchup for you. Mason Rudolph is going to start this game, and we're going to give your thoughts about it as well. And before we get into that, we're going to give the injury report for both teams. This is the final preview injury report for both teams. I'm going to give the Indianapolis Colts first. So the questionable players, there are about 6 listed. It's pretty much going to be playing this game. I'm only going to list those and the 2 players that are out. The other ones are available. So the questionables is Mo Ali Cox for the Indianapolis Colts, Ashton Doolin, Matt Gay. We got Juju Brents, Jalen Carleys, and Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly and Jalen Carleys is 2 guys that's going to be huge for this game. Even Ashton Doolin, that was a guy that they needed a lot last week. And the guys that are out are Alec Pierce with the concussion and EJ Speed. We can get your thoughts really quick, Landon, on this injury report, but I know you're a big Jalen Carleys fan. We mentioned it last week as well. If you guys didn't watch it, check it out. But what was your thoughts seeing this injury report and him back on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you never want, coming back from a bye week. I mean, they've only played one game since the bye week. You never want your injury report to be that long, just 1 week after you come off bye, right? So they got some guys banged up still. It's a long season. We understand that. But, guys got to continue to take care of their bodies and put themselves in good positions. It was a tough game last week. Denver just abused the heck out of them physically, just overmatched. So that's where you see a lot of guys pop up on the injury report whenever you're just physically dominated for the better part of 3 quarters there. Just looking at it, the 2 guys that have been ruled out, like you mentioned, Alec Pierce and EJ Speed. Obviously, Alec Pierce, that's the bigger one of the 2, in my opinion, just because of what he gives you as a playmaker down the field. They don't really have that guy if he's not out there. We can all sit and talk about A.D. Mitchell and the talent and the separation and all that, but the reality is that generally every time he's targeted or has the ball in his hands, something negative is happening. Something bad is generally happening during that. So hopefully Ashton Doolin can make it into this game, and I would like to see him have a bigger role over A.D. Mitchell right now. I think in the long term, A.D. Mitchell is the more talented, obviously, but he's unreliable at this moment. So I think if you can afford to not have him out there, that's probably for the best at this time. EJ Speed being out, that's another one. It ruffles a lot of feathers, but regardless of what the tackle numbers are, and a lot of that is inflated, namely because of the defense they play in with Gus Bradley. And on top of that, they're on the field constantly because they can't get off on the money downs on 3rd and 4th down. Can't get off the field. So they're on the field a lot. So those tackle numbers are inflated, whether it's Nick Cross, whether it's Zaire Franklin. End of the day, EJ Speed, while he has made a few little splash plays here and there, obviously, you've seen the interception, the 4th down stops against Houston and stuff like that. He's had some decent plays, but for the majority of the year, they've been the middle, this linebacking core, they've just been kind of getting abused in the passing game. And excuse me, that's specifically where this matchup comes into play, like with Mason Rudolph here. If Will Levis was playing, I think you might have a better shot. But with Mason Rudolph, it's almost the exact opposite of Will Levis, right? You're sacrificing the explosive plays, the pocket, being able to get out and move as far as being an athlete. Will Levis is more of an athlete than Mason Rudolph is. But what you're getting is you're getting better pocket presence. You're getting a lot more check downs, easy completions, 5 to 10 yards. You're not getting those explosive plays. So Mason Rudolph really looks to target that middle of the field area. That's where Jalen Carley's, I think, comes into play huge in this game. If he is able to go, hopefully he is able to go. Alubi being out there, I think it still would be okay. But just for me personally, I would love to have Carley's back in this game. Before he went down with injury, as we've mentioned before, he was PFF's number 4 rated linebacker in football, one of the top 3 guys in pass coverage at the linebacker position as a rookie whenever he went down. Just did some phenomenal things out there in coverage. And that's really what this team has lacked since he went down with that injury. They have not had that at the linebacker spot. So if he can get right, Ryan Kelly, I think, is another big one. I know a lot of people really divided on him, myself included, just because the play on the field itself hasn't really been up to the standard, as we like to talk about. But what they have really missed in having a guy like Ryan Kelly and a veteran presence is a guy that can control the line of scrimmage with his mind, as far as getting guys into the correct positions, making the calls, making the adjustments. That has been missing since Ryan Kelly has been out these last few weeks. So I think getting him back in this game, along with Jalen Carley's, if they're able to go, Ashton Doolin, hopefully he's able to play. Those are all big positives to me. Even though they will miss Alec Pierce, I think. I think there's a shot that these guys actually make a bigger impact than possibly the guys they were replacing.
I agree 100%. Like, I was one of those guys that talked about Ryan Kelly with the whole Tanner Bortolini situation. And, his impact is definitely missed. You see those games where you can use that anchor and that veteran leadership on the offensive line. And he just wasn't there due to injury. And, Tanner, his colors were shown. So Ryan Kelly is definitely missed, and he's very
just little things. Yeah, I mean, it's just little things. Sorry to cut you off there.
You're good.
But it's just little things as far as picking up stunts and picking up blitzes and seeing that kind of stuff. Tanner Bortolini, I think on the field blocking wise, has been generally better than Ryan Kelly. But you see the whole line and as a whole kind of suffer from not being able to diagnose where things are coming from, where blitzes are coming from, where stunts are coming from, where wraps are coming from. That's something that Ryan Kelly gives you, is the ability to diagnose those things. Now, if he is going to be in there and all that stuff's going to get fixed, end of the day, you got to hold the line as a blocker. And that tends to be where he's struggled at, just on an individual level. His blocking has not been up to standard or up to par. But everything else is still at a really high level. And that's why he gives you at the center position.
Absolutely, man. Tennessee Titans fans, we did not forget you guys. We got the injury report for you as well. I'm going to go over the questionable and out players. Everyone else we know is playing, but their list is pretty few for the questionables and outs, so I won't be here too long. So the Tennessee Titans, they got the kicker injuries as well. Nick Folk is questionable. They got Kenneth Murray is questionable as well. Tony Pollard is questionable. Otis Reese, and they got Jalen Duncan and Will Levis. All those guys are questionable. Pretty much probably going to be a game time decision. Probably going to play. They got 2 players that are out, which is Colton Dowell and Luke Gifford. So those are 2 players that are out, but they're pretty much going to be at full strength. But those guys, very pivotal. They got a lot of players coming back for this game. And, having a guy like Mason Rudolph, a veteran who's been around the league and pretty much made a name for himself, he's going to have some talent with him. So it's going to be a very interesting game. Going ahead and hop into this matchup, I'm trying to figure out which way I want to start first, but I think I'm going to start for the Colts defensive side, going up against this Tennessee Titans offense. Of course, the Tennessee Titans average about 18 points a game, but that was with Will Levis. and the offensive line, things are changing. But having Mason Rudolph, like I said, going into this game, it's going to be a different type of view of what you're usually seeing as the Titans. And I think the Titans last week, as I mentioned, they had themselves a very solid week. Of course, they didn't come out with a W, but you've seen the team started to click a little bit and get a little bit better than what we're used to seeing against a really good Cincinnati Bengals team that's trying to make a playoff push. But going up against this offense with Mason Rudolph, we just mentioned this Colts defense, who's pretty much been out on the field pretty much all year. That's been on the field the most. Going up against the team, they made a few splashes, make a few plays, but it's going to be a very tough matchup, as you mentioned, with the linebacker positions. A guy like Mason Rudolph is going to see that and pretty much take advantage of it. What's your view on the Colts defense going up against this Titans offense?
Yeah, well, really, like I was saying, where Mason Rudolph tends to attack is that middle of the field. He's not one of those guys that just has the elite arm talent like a guy like Will Levis has. Like, regardless of whether Will Levis uses it correctly or not, he still has the arm talent to push the ball down the field in a big way. Mason Rudolph doesn't have that. Where Mason Rudolph tends to beat you is with his mind, and kind of with his accuracy and his knowledge and veteran poise. I mean, this is a guy, like you said, he's been around the league for a few years now. He knows how to be a pro and go out there and execute an offense. He's still likely. He'll give you some turnovers, right? He'll give you some chances. So I think the Colts can capitalize on those. That'll be a big thing in this game if they capitalize on those chances, because he does tend to once or twice have those kind of brain fart moments where he just kind of zings one into double coverage or doesn't see a guy and stuff like that. And that can get you into some trouble if you're Mason Rudolph. But other than that, he's a guy that tries to get the ball out quick. He doesn't want to take a lot of sacks because he's not a very mobile guy. So, I think really for me, where you want to look at is the running back screen game. Getting the ball out quickly to the running backs and stuff like that. That's an area that the Colts have really struggled in. And I'm not necessarily going to say the tight end just because I don't think the Titans really have that kind of a tight end guy. I think Chigakonkwo is talented, but I don't think Chigakonkwo is a guy that he can beat you by himself. But where they can beat you is with a talented guy like Calvin Ridley out there, who can take these short passes, these quick slants and stuff like that. And if you miss a tackle, he's a guy that does have the ability to kind of house it. But what I really want to focus on is something the Colts have struggled in, and something the Titans have really done well over the last few weeks, namely Tony Pollard, and that's running the football. The Titans have been really efficient, really physical running the football over the last few weeks. So that's something that I expect them to stick to in this game. I expect that to be their game plan moving forward. And it really does show you, honestly, with the benching of Will Levis, that regardless of whether this team is already out of the playoffs or something like that, they're trying to still win football games. They're trying to end the season on a high note. I believe they're 2-1 in their last 3 games. So they've, seemed to have found a little bit of something that's worked for them. Where they've really tended to shoot themselves in the foot for the better part are the turnovers. And namely, that's Will Levis, right? He's been giving the ball away way too much. To be fair, it came out this week he had a grade 3 AC joint sprain, which is the same injury that placed Anthony Richardson on IR last season and ultimately had him out for the rest of the year. Will Levis played through that last week. And to me, that's and I got a lot of pushback on this, which is hilarious. Makes
That's
no
a setup.
Yeah, makes no sense. Why you would throw a young guy, whether you believe he's your franchise quarterback or not. I mean, this is a guy going into his 2nd season, his 5th offense in the last 5 years, right? 5 different offensive coordinators. He's still learning. He's still young. You traded up to the top of the 2nd round to draft him, whether you're giving up on him or not. That's just not something, like, you can't put a guy in that position to where he's out there playing football with that kind of an injury and properly evaluate where he is. It's just gross negligence, honestly, from an organizational standpoint. You just can't do it. So I think it was really unfair to him. But that being said, like I said, they're still trying to win football games. They're going to come out. They're going to be physical. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to get the ball out quick with Mason Rudolph. Tackling will be at a premium in this game. You got to wrap up. You got to tackle. But I think the Colts, I mean, by no stretch of the imagination, the Colts are the more talented team. Like, this defense should properly perform in this game. Titans' offensive line has been, for the better part of the season, really bad, especially the right side. That left side with Latham, he's had a little bit of struggles recently, but it's a little bit more solid with Latham, Skoronski, and those guys on the left side. The right side has been just a sieve. So, as much as you can isolate Latu, get DeForest Buckner rotated. Tyquan Lewis could be a big. I mean, Tyquan Lewis routinely has killed the Titans, right? So I think there's definitely a shot that this could be one of the better defensive performances of the year, and they're coming off a really, really strong defensive performance in in Denver last week. So getting a guy like Jalen Carley's who can cover the middle of the field at a high level, in which, granted, it's been in limited snaps, so you got to see if he can do it consistently for a full game. But he has shown that he does have that ability. I think there's a shot that they have a really strong defensive performance in this game.
I agree as well. Most of their success on those first down plays is from the run. They got a few first downs by passing the football, but even from the last matchup, we mentioned the run game for Tony Pollard. When those guys are pretty much just willing and dealing running the football, a lot of people was running the football for the Titans in the first matchup against the Colts. Pollard looked like himself. Spears has a few plays. Levis ran for a few first downs as well for running the football. So hopefully that's not the same issue they're going to have in this matchup. They're going to be back at home.
Which I believe they were missing DeForest Buckner in that first matchup as well. So that's a huge piece to that.
Yeah, I agree. So we're gonna hope that that's not the issue this week. Even though with our team at full stack, they can still lay an egg in the run defense, and nothing can be stopped. I mean, it is the Colts, cardiac Colts. So we don't want to wish the worst, but again, we got to prepare ourselves for the worst as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But the Titans are one of the worst teams on third down. So granted, the Colts are too, but that lays off a little bit pressure.
This really, this whole team is it's like weakness against weakness. It's just all bad. This really has the makings to be a really bad football
game. Yeah, it really does, man. Going into this game for the Colts, transition to the offensive side, which is Landon's favorite side of the football. The Colts averages about 20 points a game. So it's going to be interesting to see how Anthony Richardson can put the team on his back as he usually does and try to get us to the end zone. Richardson wound up running it in last week. But this team, you've seen the inconsistency just glaring last week. They just fell flat, a lot of drops, a lot of inconsistency for the receiving group. And, the offensive line didn't play up to its potential. And we both can admit that this Titans defense is very underrated. You just looked at how stacked they can be on that defensive line. The linebackers can go out there. The secondary can make some explosive plays. Last time we matched up, LeJerry Sneed got mossed in the end zone, but that might not be the case this time around. It's a division game, and the division rivals know you better than anyone else. So it's going to be interesting. And of course, coming off of Michael Pittman Jr., he's having a rough season, in my opinion. He just hasn't been what we're used to seeing. And that's just the offense in general. It's just been very rough to watch. What's your thoughts on Anthony Richardson and this offense going up against this Titan defense who can pretty much shut you out?
Yeah, well, like you said, I mean, this Titans defense has been very underrated, which it kind of reflects in the stats, which is kind of funny because they're really strong when you look at their passing defense, the running defense, the turnovers, all that kind of stuff. They're one of the better units in the league. They're top 5 in a lot of really big categories where they tend to fall apart, and they're in the bottom quarter of the league is points allowed. And a lot of that has to do from turnovers from the offense. The offense continuously turning the ball over, giving teams really good field position in the red zone area. It's hard for a defense to keep the points down whenever you're constantly being put in bad positions in the red zone for turnovers. That's the key. Whenever the Titans don't turn the ball over in the red zone and they actually have positive field position on defense, they're one of the better units in the NFL. This is a really strong Titans defense. Their secondary has been a surprise, even without L'Jarius Sneed. They've played some really good football.
It showed against that Bengals team last
Yeah,
week.
I mean, like they get after it, man. They get after it on defense, and really, like I said, I mean, how many turnovers were in that game? From the Titans' offense, was it like 6 turnovers? I believe. Like it's hard to play defense when your offense is giving the ball away 6 times. Like it's just
We should know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like we've seen it. So, yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be tough. This is going to be one of those games to me where, and let's just be honest about it, right? Where I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Since the benching, obviously Anthony Richardson has gotten better since the benching, but each week that we've gotten further away from that, his performances have tended to get a little bit worse, and ultimately culminated last week. Really, really bad game out there. So I know we've preached once again, you can't expect Anthony Richardson to perform well when everything around him is falling apart. He's just not there yet. He's too young, too inexperienced. That's not what this was supposed to be. This was supposed to be him, the team around him picking him up and his talent basically meshing with that and the situation being better. So far, it's been his talent being let down by the other team. And on top of that, him letting them down as well. It's just kind of been a culmination of bad stuff. So this is going to be a game for them against a tough defense. You're going to have to run the ball well with Jonathan Taylor. You can't have any more of those stupid mistakes from last week. That can't happen again. A.D. Mitchell, if he is going to be out there, he's got to, you can't be out there improvising routes and scared of contact and alligator arming the football or throwing interceptions. Hopefully he's never put in that position again from the coaching staff. He's going to have to pick it up. The offensive line, hopefully we're getting Ryan Kelly back. They're able to pick it up. But at the end of the day, it's on the quarterback. The quarterback's got to go out there. He's got to deliver accurate balls. He's got to go out there and make plays in the quarterback run game. I think they need to get back to that. They got away from that last week, and it was working really well in the first quarter. They got away from it for whatever reason, and everything tended to fall apart. So right now, since he can't, and I think through 14 games, that's enough data to say that he can't be the guy that can beat you through the air. You have to utilize the quarterback run game to get him going. So hopefully that tends to alleviate, put some pressure on the Titans defense with that quarterback run game. Hopefully he's able to hit enough of the layups to where it matters. And then ultimately, we know he can make the explosive plays to score. So that's just kind of where I'm at with it. It's up to the quarterback, to perform better. You can't have another performance last week, but it's also up to the team around him to step up their game as well.
I agree. He's going to need Jonathan Taylor more than ever this week. And I think the run designs have to be away from the inside. I think the Titans interior is pretty much like a stone wall. So you're going to have to run outside and try to get something going, especially with the QB run design. So that's pretty much where I stand. Jonathan Taylor, definitely, we're going to need him this week. I know the team support after last week with them drop the turnover and not getting in the end zone. But I'm pretty sure this week he's going to be locked in. He had a good week, but he just couldn't get in the end zone. And it's been like that for a few weeks. So this week we're going to need Jonathan Taylor for sure because there's going to be a lot of pressure on Anthony Richardson. They're going to force him to throw, as we already know that. So the receivers got to go out there. Everybody just has to go out there and make a play. And that's pretty much been the whole dilemma this whole season. A lot of guys just not making plays. Like the plays are there to be successful, but the players aren't making the plays. So it's going to be very interesting. The guys that are going to be impact players this week. Of course, we mentioned Richardson and Taylor, but the dark horse, of course, I think it's got to be Josh Downs for the offense. I think he's got to be that guy. Without Alec Pierce, he got to take that next step. He can have himself one of those games against this team.
He's been one of the only, he's been only really one of the only bright spots for this team this entire year. Seeing the growth of Josh Downs and him transforming into one of the biggest playmakers in the league. The guy converts, third downs at one of the highest rates in the NFL. He's a chain mover. He's a guy that just gets open consistently. If quarterback's got to hit him. If he's gonna be one of your only guys that gets open and fights for the ball and consistently catches the football for you, you have to find a way to get him involved early, and you got to give him catchable footballs. There's no reason, for him to run a route, that's 5 to 8 yards and throw a rocket in there. Like, there's got to be catchable balls.
I agree, man. And you knew that since draft day. Like, I can still remember when he got drafted, how ecstatic he was for Josh Downs. So
yeah. He's a
it's gonna
top
be
30 player for me on my board. So
yes, sir.
the fact that they got him in the 70s, I was ecstatic to say the least. So
It's good times, man. Switching for impact players for this defense. Quick question. I know how you feel about Juju Brents, but he is on the injury report. If he has a chance to play, we didn't touch. Did you want Juju to play this game if he can?
I mean, if he can, yeah, absolutely. I think if he can, he needs to be out there. You have you have to see what you have in him. You spent a very high pick on him, top of the second round. You obviously believed in the talent. If he is able to play, I don't think you just I think you completely bench Jones or Womack, but I think he needs to rotate in there. There's got to be a little bit of a rotation. So, to me, I don't think you rotate Jones. I think Womack would probably be the easiest candidate for that. But he's been playing really good football too. So, and that's the struggles, right? That's the struggle of what happens whenever you're not available. Is a lot of times you're not available to be out there because of injury. Again, whenever you have consistent injuries like he's had since he was drafted, and really going all the way back into college, right? So whenever you have those consistent injuries, you open the door for somebody like a Samuel Womack to come in and take your job, or a guy like Jalen Jones to come in and take your job. It has to be his play. It has to be his availability to go out there and show that if he is given the opportunity, he can take that job back. I think he deserves that opportunity based on where you picked him. If this was a 5th or 6th rounder, you're probably just writing it off and he's probably not making the roster next year. But, that's just part of the business. You invested a really high draft pick in him. You got to see what you have. If he comes out there and completely stinks it up over the next couple games, then, I mean, it is what it is.
It sure is. Hey, we'll definitely be talking about it. And Lando would be like, "Well, I told you so." Just for the conversations we had off stream.
The thing with Jalen Jones too is like in limited snaps, it's really weird because I just don't see the way. Like, I thought it was a weird draft pick at the time. I like the player. It was one of those where I like the player. I don't like the fit for what they're doing. He's a extremely long guy, right? Very physical cornerback, very long, but he doesn't have elite recovery speed. He's not just this burner that can catch up if he gets beat. And if you're going to ask that guy, that type of guy that isn't that quick, twitchy, fast cornerback to play 10 yards off, you're really underutilizing his skill set. He's a guy that needs to be up in the face of defenders, bumping them at the line of scrimmage, using that length to his advantage to knock guys off their routes early and force some incompletions and maybe even some turnovers. But if you're not going to utilize him like that, I think you're really doing him a disservice by throwing him out there on an island, 8 to 10 yards off in zone coverage, and thinking that he's a guy that if he gets beat, he's going to have that recovery speed to get back into the play. That's just not his game. So on top of him not being available, I think whenever he has been available in the rare times, I don't think this defense and Gus Bradley and them have really utilized him to his strengths as well. So this season, Gus has tended to change a little bit, right? We've seen a lot of stuff about them getting away from the massive, 68% cover 3 and getting away from, this super huge off coverages and these, clouds and stuff like that. So maybe that continues. Maybe he comes back in this game. You do put him back up at the line of scrimmage and allow him to really go play his game and what he's built for. So I think that could be a big step towards actually seeing what he has. Because if he is going to be available, it's still you still got to put the guys in a position to succeed. You can't just go out there and fit a square peg into a round hole. That's not really how that works. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see Juju get back on the field, man. I always had faith in him after his debut against Baltimore. So
yeah,
I mean, it's just come down with consistency, you know.
yeah,
But
it sucks for him too. And like that's the thing is like we can sit here like that's the one thing I don't ever want to do is we can harp on the availability and stuff like that, but I mean, at the end of the day, dude, like it's not really his fault. Like, do you think if he could you think if he could turn the injury sliders off, he would? Like, absolutely he would. It sucks for him and it sucks for a young man that really, is from Indianapolis. He played high school football here. Like, this was his home. He gets to come home to the organization that he loved growing up and make an impact. And so far, the injuries have really prevented him from doing that. And that's not his fault. And it just really sucks for him to have to go through these early season or, these seasonal struggles the first 2 years of his career. But you know what they say, pressure makes diamonds. Hopefully this is one of those things that he looks back on. We all look back on, a couple years from now, whenever he's signing a big contract extension with the Colts, and say, yeah, this was an aberration. This isn't really who he is. We've seen him healthy, Pro Bowl talent cornerback, and we've got that position locked down for the foreseeable future. I really, really hope that he's that guy. I really do.
yeah, man, same. So you mentioned Jalen Cartley's being an impact player coming into this game, pass coverage and everything like that. I think my guy I'm going to go with for this week is Jalen Jones. I think Jalen Jones with the Mason Rudolph who can get trigger happy. I think him and how he's been playing all year, I think he can have a huge game and have a huge impact against this Titans offense. So besides Carly's and Jalen Jones, who's another guy on the defense you think can have an impact week?
Yeah, as far as impact goes, it doesn't get any bigger than DeForest Buckner, right? And I know like that's such a cop-out answer, right? But you have to remember he wasn't available to play in the first matchup with the Titans. So this is his first game against this Tennessee offensive line, first game against this front that with guys like Latu and Tyquan Lewis and Grover, you know, now they're at full strength, theoretically. Obviously Ebukam is still out, but they're at full strength to get this really porous Titans offensive line. So we saw the impact DeForest Buckner made last week against Denver. Denver is a really strong offensive line. They got after him. They got after him in a pretty good way. They got after Bo Nix and forced him into some mistakes. I think you can do the same with Mason Rudolph. So I know it's a cop-out answer, but to me, I'm excited to see what DeForest Buckner does against this Titans offensive line.
I think we all do. And it's a good answer to me because he's definitely an impact player and we're going to need him this
He's
week.
The biggest impact player.
Facts.
The biggest.
Facts. We're going to need him this week, man, regardless. So it's going to be a good game. Of course, before we mention, I don't know.
Yeah.
You mentioned Juju Brents. Yeah. We mentioned Juju Brents coming back and then availability. He was talking about Walmack coming in and just pretty much filling in that spot. There was a chance to get another guy that Womack played with in Ambry Thomas, and they wind up failing his physical. So we wind up missing out on that opportunity because when he was healthy, he battled injuries as well. But when he was on the field, he was looking like a lockdown corner. What was your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say lockdown. Like he was, third round guy drafted out of Michigan, high profile school. So he has talent, right? You don't play at that level and get drafted in the top 3 rounds without having the talent. Like you said, he's really struggled with the injuries and stuff like that. But yeah, end of the day, if the Colts medical staff is failing you,
that's the fear. That's the fear I have.
There's got to be something going on. We'll see what happens in the future, whether he gets picked up somewhere else or whether he is able to pass another physical and eventually join this roster. He's a guy that has talent, and he's shown in spots that he can be a really good player. He's been really inconsistent, and he's battled with some injuries. So we'll see what happens. But they found a diamond in the rough with Womack. Womack's been out there playing really good football, and kind of like we said, with the availability thing is whenever you're not out there, whenever you're not available, you're opening the door for somebody else to come in and play really good football and take your job away. So we'll see how it plays out.
Let's just hope he doesn't get a physical pass into Houston, and we'll have to see him 2 times a year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But, this game, Sunday, is going to be an interesting one. Indianapolis Colts versus the Tennessee Titans. Let's just hope that I don't fall asleep during this game. Somebody make a splash play or something, because both of these teams cannot put up points like regular football teams. So it's going to probably be a slow-paced football game.
Titans' offense is horrendous. The Colts' offense is horrendous. I mean, this is but I will say I would rather bet on the talent of the Colts offense, regardless of whether they play good football or not. I still think they're talented. I don't think I can say the same about Tennessee.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of field goals made this week because both of these kickers is injured.
Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Shea Steichen, go for it.
Hey, I mean, if you're going to go for it, like I said, utilize that quarterback run game. I mean, Anthony Richardson has been a dog in the quarterback run game. I believe he's like the 3rd highest EPA in the league, right behind Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. There's Anthony Richardson as far as running the football goes. Obviously, those guys are on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to passing. But, that's the hope is, like I said, if he can just hit a few of the layups. You don't have to hit all of them, but just keep them honest. Keep the defense honest to where they can't just sit back and take away the deep part of the field and say, hey, we don't think that you can throw an accurate pass, in this short to intermediate area. This is where we're going to force you to beat us. If he can keep them honest, I think the Colts have a shot in this game.
I like that. Well, we're going to find out on Sunday, and then we'll be back on Tuesday to give you a reaction.
Maybe not Tuesday.
Is that
Christmas Eve? Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. And so, I'm pretty much booked family-wise. So we have a very large family. Like I've got my wife's, both sides of my wife's family, both sides of my family. We start our Christmas on Tuesday. We have a Christmas every day until Sunday. So
no invite is crazy. I need an invite.
Dude, you're always welcome to fly down here. You've done it before. You've flown over here. You're always welcome to fly in. We'd love to have you.
I'll be the life of the party.
We got a spare. Look, we got a spare bed just right over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna just need that PlayStation.
We got 2 extra bedrooms.
Yes, but in that case, you guys have to turn on your noties, follow, subscribe on all platforms to know when the content is dropping. It is the holidays. I want you guys to enjoy it and stay safe. But we'll be back, of course, to give you our reactions whenever that time is free. So we'll let you guys know. Follow us on Twitter. That's where you can really find out.
I'm free Monday.
Hey.
I'm off all day Monday.
Okay.
I'm actually
I could probably do that.
Yeah, like I'm actually don't work again until the beginning of next year. So I've got some time. So maybe Monday.
I'll hit you up.
Yeah. We'll get it worked out.
Yeah, we'll get it worked out. But appreciate you guys again. That's Landon. This is Marcus. Until next time, happy holidays. Safe travels if you're traveling. Drive, drink responsibly. And until next time, we'll see you. Go Colts. Hopefully it's victory.